Welcome to a brand new hour as America reports on the big changes from the CDC amid the questions over timing. Good afternoon. Welcome to the second hour of America Reports. I'm John Roberts in Washington. Hi again, Sandra.
And hello to you, John. Hello, everyone. I'm Sandra Smith here in New York. From the threat of war in the Middle East to the gas shortage happening in the Southeast, John, there are questions from many Republicans over the timing of that changed CDC guidance, considering all that is happening.
Yes, we're going to get to all of that coming up. But first, the fuel is flowing, yet Americans are still getting crushed at the pump. Analysts say it could take until at least Memorial Day for things to get back to normal.
That could affect a lot of people. And take a look at all this. More than a dozen states are now reporting shortages in Georgia, South Carolina, and Virginia. Nearly half of the stations in those states are now empty. In North Carolina, more than 60% are short on fuel.
And here in our nation's capital, nearly 90% of all gas stations are out of gas. We'll talk to the one person who might have some answers for you in just a moment.
But we begin with Steve Harrigan. He's live in Atlanta for us. He's been talking to the drivers all day, obviously facing some challenges there. Steve, how's it going?
That's right, Sandra. You see people just driving around on the hunt for gasoline. The pipeline is fully operational, but it has yet to make a dent here in the problems in Georgia, where still 50% of the gas stations do not have fuel. And when you talk to people, there's a real mix of anger and confusion.
I saw the gas tank and I pulled right in.
Have you been looking around all morning?
I did. I have been, yeah. And all day yesterday.
Wow. That's a lot of your time being spent on
it. Has been. I agree. It's kind of ridiculous, isn't it?
I think having our infrastructure completely be unprotected from cybersecurity is ridiculous, and we're decades behind most other countries. And we really need to, having critical pieces of our infrastructure just connected to the internet without, modern security systems. Like, what do you expect is going to happen?
What do you think caused this?
Vladimir Putin.
Vladimir Putin?
Yes, definitely.
Значит, вы считаете, что Путин виноват за это?
Yes, definitely.
That man was Polish. He spoke pretty fluent Russian but did not want to use it. And the woman has been looking for gasoline for 2 days. She saw a tanker, followed it right in here to this station, and topped off. Sandra, back to you.
I think maybe you caught him off guard with your ability to speak to him, Steve, I suppose. All right, great reporting. Thank you so much, Steve.
Only Steve Harrigan would speak to somebody in Russian at a gas station in the South. Let's bring in Linnea Guy. She is the Chief Operating Officer for PDI Software, which owns GasBuddy. Linnea, good to see you here today. How did this become so bad so quickly? GasBuddy is now reporting that 14 states are experiencing shortages.
Yes, absolutely. Our software helps connect the entire petroleum supply chain, from inventory to transportation to C-store operations, and all the way down to the consumers like you and me who need gas and snacks on the go. And actually, part of the way that we got into this situation is really induced by panic buying. Consumers heard that there was going to be challenges at the pump, and so everybody went out at the same time and bought gas, which created a demand spike that was depleted the inventory levels at gas stations faster than the supply chain could refuel them. And so here we are with news of outages driving even more consumers to the pump, and it's actually making things worse as opposed to allowing the supply chain some time to heal and repair and replenish itself.
Linnea, there's the obvious impact right now from all of this, but there's a lot of folks who are planning their Memorial Day travel. They wonder what that's going to look like and what it's going to cost them. Can you make any predictions for us as to what the average American might be seeing at the pump come Memorial Day?
Such a good question. Well, we normally would have seen a slight rise in gas prices as we head into the summer driving season. And then also as the economy has started to recover, people are going back to work and there are more cars on the road and starting to take those trips. So we would have expected to see some rise in prices. But unfortunately, that supply and demand coinciding with higher prices now means that I think we might be stuck with those prices for the foreseeable future. Some states may see recovery taking as long as a couple of weeks, which would put us right at that Memorial Day drive time.
Which is the question I wanted to ask you about. If we put that map back up on the screen again so that you can see the percentage of outages here in Washington, D.C., it's 88% of gas stations that do not have any gas. North Carolina, 67%, 50% in Virginia, where I live. I managed to get gas yesterday, but there was only 1 out of 5 gas stations in our town that actually had gas. 50% in South Carolina, 48% in Georgia, 42% in Maryland now, and more states being added to the list. Why is it taking so long to get fuel out to these gas stations?
Well, there are a couple of factors. First of all, the fuel is centrally stored, and it takes some time for the trucks and tankers to be able to get that fuel from the terminals all the way down to the endpoints in the gas stations. There's also a labor shortage in the truck driver market that's exacerbating things right now. The industry is aging itself, and newer drivers are replacing older drivers. And so we have right now not only a supply chain crisis, but a shortage of drivers who can help get us out of it.
You know, there's the feeling that some of this, and I know Patrick DeHaan has said this as well, that this is just spiraled out of control. Do you see in some ways that this could have been managed better so that Americans were not in the position they are in today, in many cases not be able to fill their gas tank?
I do think that we all as consumers might have worked ourselves up a little bit and contributed to the challenges, because everybody going out and buying gas all at once just created a really sudden shock to the system. But, you know, ultimately, I think that's a little bit hard to control. More information about how resilient this industry really is, how much fuel is actually available in markets that would have been able to fill up a more tight demand timeline. But, you know, ultimately, I think this is just a really unusual situation that it's hard to plan for.
According to GasBuddy.com, gas prices are now averaging $3 a gallon. That's the first time since 2014. Obviously, this pipeline disaster has got something to do with that. Upward pressure on prices because, as you mentioned, of Memorial Day. But how much does policy formed here in Washington have to do with that? You know, we heard Jennifer Granholm, the energy secretary, say the other day, hey, it's all about pipelines when it comes to moving gasoline, and yet her boss is shutting down pipelines.
Well, ultimately, the average C-store operator is an American business person, and so they really do try and price their gas in a way that helps them run their business better, and different pricing strategies work for different brands and operators. And so mostly I think what you see is stores setting their prices in response to their own supply cost, and also in response to what they think will drive demand, and there's a lot that goes into that. Certainly, policy helps impact things upstream, but I think what you're seeing right now is people just sort of trying to react to what will help optimize their business for the economics and then drive the consumers to their stores.
A lot of people are choosing just to stay home, couldn't get to work, couldn't get gas. It's a dire situation for a lot of folks. Linnea, thanks for joining us. We look
Thank you so
forward
much for having me.
to better days and more full gas tanks. There's been some fights breaking out at some of these gas stations, John. I'm sure you've seen some of the viral video.
Yes.
It's not good.
You know, the other day I sat in line for about a half an hour trying to get some gas for my wife's car. I made it all the way through the line up until I got to put my credit card in the gas pump, and the guy came along and said, sorry, we're out of gas. I saw the same fellow yesterday when I actually pulled in for some gas, the guy named Simon at the local BP station. He's a great guy. We took some photographs together, put some gas in the car. So
shout out to Simon.
Everybody let bygones be bygones. And everybody's pretty cool about the whole thing.
That's good.
I've seen it get tense elsewhere.
I'm sure that's more the case than the other. So.
Yeah.
All right, more ahead on the gas shortage, by the way, John, and reports that Colonial Pipeline paid millions in ransom. But is that the right move for our national security? What does that encourage? Ari Fleischer says a direct line. It's a direct line for more of these attacks. He will join us live in just a moment.
But up next, former CDC Chief Richard Besser with his take on the new mask guidance. And how do folks really feel about ditching the covering? Is there some getting used to just taking the mask off? We'll tell you about it coming up.
I think it's a step in the right direction, kind of, the want to return to normalcy. But, the idea that, someone who is vaccinated would be around people who are unvaccinated, I still think it might be a little too early.
Veteran